Okay. All right. So based on feedback from our intentions to return survey, 75% of our families wanted information on schools opening safely, and 53% wanted to hear from local experts. We shared 6 articles on guidance for opening or schools that are doing it safely. So this morning, we're bringing 2 local experts. Ms. Jennifer Sharpe is the school nurse at Good Shepherd Episcopal School, where a number of our 5th grade graduates attend. Good Shepherd is a K-8 school in Richmond with 93 students. Ms. Sharpe is going to share her experience as a school nurse and some of the safety procedures they have in place to keep their community safe. As we revise our return to school plan, you'll see many of these policies in place at St. Andrews. In this Monday's communication, some of those will be outlined. Dr. Tamara Charity-Brown is a pediatrician with associates in pediatrics. Her group has offices in Glen Allen, Midlothian, and Richmond. Dr. Charity-Brown is going to talk about what she sees in her practice and what she knows about elementary age children and the virus and what the timing could look like for an available vaccine for children ages 12 and under. We're going to begin with Ms. Sharpe, and then we'll go to Dr. Charity-Brown. And if we have any extra time, we can open it for questions. But if we don't, I'd like our families to send questions to Health Alert at St. Andrews. And then in my Monday communication, I'll answer those questions. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, so should I start?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Sharpe, and I'm a registered nurse at Good Shepherd Episcopal School. I got hired in August. I was I'm their first nurse that they've had ever. They had the unit office secretary. She did all like the nursing things, but because of COVID this year, they did decide to hire a nurse, and we have been in person 5 days a week since August 24th. And I'm just going to talk about some of the safety precautions because we also did have parents and some students and some staff that were concerned about opening up, and they were very concerned that we'd be opening and closing and everything like that and everyone getting COVID. I can honestly say this experience has been so positive. We have had, great families and great staff, and we're all in it as a community together. So we're all protecting one another. What we do, I'm going to talk about a few of the safety things that we do here at Good Shepherd. What we do is every morning we have a car line where the parents drive up, and before the child gets out of the car, we take temperatures every morning and just ask how everyone is and kind of just see, like you can see the student getting out of the car. You make sure that they're not coughing, they're not sneezing or anything like that. So every student, every staff member has their temperature taken, and we just kind of just look at them just to make sure that they're not looking sick. Our students are only they're in one classroom. So we have like the first graders and they stay in their classroom. There's no intermingling among classes. So they stay in their rooms. We have the teachers in the rooms, and the specialty teachers like art and Spanish, PE, we have them, they're the ones that they go in and out of the classroom. So it's not the students. So if we ever did, and I will talk about that, we did have a case in the 7th grade, but that way the classroom is confined. So if there is a case, the school does not have to necessarily shut down, but that classroom would just quarantine, but the school and most of the staff members would be able to continue working. It would just be like that, those 2 main teachers that would have to quarantine with their class. What we do is we require masks all of the time, except, and the children eat in their classrooms, they have snack in their classrooms. They sit at their desk 6 feet apart. They are allowed to take their mask off, obviously, when they're eating and when they're drinking and during snack time. But it's called quiet lunch, where when you're eating and having snack, the rule is you can't talk. And it's only just because without the mask, because without the mask on, you have more of an opportunity for, for germs and everything like that to be spreading, air droplets. So we have that. On the playground, we do require a mask to be worn, but we do call it a mask break. If the students want to take their mask off, they can move aside, outside, they can move aside and they take their mask off. They let their teacher know. They just have to be, 6 feet away, like away from anybody, even more actually. And they can take their mask off. Then when they decide that, they want to go back and play, they have to put their mask on. Let's see, we obviously encourage, they have to wear their mask. We do social distancing. We have, dots along the hallway. So when the class does line up to go outside to the playground or to go to outdoor ed, all the little spots are 6 feet away. The students all know that. We do encourage the teachers, we encourage the parents to bring, the boots, the winter coats, everything, because we do try to do as much as we can outside, because that is important. So if it's a pretty nice day, even if it's a little chilly, we are set up that the classroom can go outside and do, outdoor learning there. And we do, let me see what else we do. We also do the playground, one class at a time. There's no intermingling at all. So PE is one class. The recess time is one class. That way then, it's just no intermingling. We do, so I told you we take the temperatures. We have like bathroom passes where it can't be a bunch of students in the bathroom because our bathrooms are small. We only have like 3 or 4 stalls. We allow only 2 students in the bathroom at a time. So they have to put like a little bathroom pass on the hallway, just so then we can keep an eye. So it's not like a group of kids talking inside the bathroom. We do have a fogger, and at night, this whole entire building is sprayed. It's mostly like a mist, and it totally disinfects and kills coronavirus and any other virus within I think it's like 60 seconds. And it's safe, and it actually kills like everything on paper and everything. So they come into all the offices, and they fog it, and because it can live on paper, coronavirus and everything like that. So it kills everything. So the building is totally clean. And throughout the day, the biggest thing throughout the day, if a student does have complaints of, a stomach ache, a headache, not feeling well, obviously I take the temperature, but that doesn't necessarily, mean that, it doesn't mean, because a lot of kids don't have fevers. So we do take it seriously. We do have a policy where if a child is not feeling well, the parents do have to pick the child up. They do have to see the doctor and have a doctor's note to come back. Now, I know the CDC says like 24 hours symptom-free, just with any sickness, they can come back. We decided to make it extra safe, and we set a 48-hour policy, because even if they had seen the doctor and it's just a cold, we really don't want the student coming back with a cold, because then the entire school could actually get the cold, and then we wouldn't know if it was corona or not. So all we ask is 48 hours symptom-free. The parents have been wonderful. We do ask parents, not to travel, or if they do decide to. And like during Thanksgiving, we had very honest families, because the families want us to stay open. They appreciate that we're open. So they're helping in any way they can. So we did have families say, we are going to travel for Thanksgiving. We did have them say, we are going to have a huge group of, of relatives coming. We did ask them to quarantine for 7 days. That first week after Thanksgiving, we asked them not to come back, or we give them the option. They just had to test for COVID and be negative. So that way, then it was just like, it's just less exposure to the school. Like we're just trying to stay pretty much in a bubble. We encourage, obviously, hand washing. We have the touchless sinks. So the students are constantly washing their hands. We open up our windows. Every classroom has windows. We open up our windows, and every room has a window fan that we keep on, and we'll keep it on all winter long. Like the students, some of them, we have the heat on, but if it does get chilly, they're welcome to wear their coats. So we have that. We have air purifiers in every room, just because, I mean, that's so good. It just circulates the air, it keeps everything clean. So we have the open windows, we have the air purifiers. We do spray down the playground equipment with the same solution that we use for the fogger. We do spray that down about 3 mornings a week. We do it Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Technically, the CDC said we don't have to do that at all, but we decided just to be extra careful and do that. The students, before they go on the playground, have to use hand sanitizer before they go on the playground and after the playground. And that's a big thing too. And as I said, there's no intermingling, on the playground. It's just one class at a time. Let me see, I told you about the quiet lunches. And we did have, we were fine up until 3 weeks ago. We did have 2 cases of COVID in our 7th grade. More than likely, the first student got it from her dad. His job is he goes in and out of food markets, grocery stores. More than likely, the dad working in the supermarkets had given it to his daughter. When we got that call that she was positive for COVID, it was easy because we were able to quarantine the entire 7th grade. They had to quarantine for 14 days. And another student who was sitting about 7 feet away from her did also get it. So that was our second case. And so far that's been it. So really since August, I mean, it's been an awesome, awesome record. And parents have so much confidence. And because we knew there was always a chance it was going to happen. The fact that it was just 2 and that it was limited into 1 room and it was the student that was sitting next to the first student, only because he was about 7 feet away, chances are that's how that happened. But the rest of the school, no one else got it. So it just shows that the open windows, the ventilation, the washing hands, the wearing the mask, it was not a wildfire. No one else in the building got it. No staff members, no other classes or anything like that. We did have, one family did have siblings, and so the siblings, it was actually during Thanksgiving break, so it really did luck out. So the siblings then, so the student had a quarantine, for the 14 days, and the student with the siblings did take off that 1 week, and then we had them make sure that they tested negative. So they did test negative, and then they were able to come back. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I think I covered pretty much everything we do.
That was fabulous. There was one question in the chat about the 7th graders. Did you mention if they're the siblings? Yes.
Yes, the siblings.
Yes. So you said that they quarantined for a week and then were tested?
Yes, with the 7th graders, because Thanksgiving is confirmed. All right, what happened is we got the call on a Saturday morning that a student had tested positive the Friday before the week of Thanksgiving. So Friday, it was the 20th. So we got the call. So what we did, we were supposed to be open Monday and Tuesday. And then Thanksgiving was Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We as a school decided, because we closed Monday and Tuesday. So we were not open Thanksgiving week at all, even though we were supposed to, because we wanted to do deep cleaning with the school, and we also wanted to do, kind of like tracing, just to see what teachers had to be excluded. And it was only the 2, according to the Virginia Department of Health, it was only the 2 main ones that had to be excluded. The art teacher who goes in twice a week for 1 hour, who stands in front of the room, was not considered a contact, like close by direct contact. So they were able to. So we did close. And the siblings, so we did talk to the Virginia Department of Health. They were able to come back, but now I want to get this straight now. They were able to come back. They did have to test negative. I might have to get back to you on that. If it was 7 days or was it the whole 14? It might have been the 14 days, and they had to test negative.
Okay, so the Virginia Department of Health guided you in those decisions.
The Virginia Department of Health, oh my gosh, is amazing. They are the ones that are absolutely amazing. And actually, I think you would have the same contact. He's a contact investigator for private and public schools for like the city of Richmond and also for Henrico, he said. He has been amazing, and all I do is call him up and he's right there. So I really follow the Virginia Department of Health more than the CDC. The Virginia Department of Health, I just find it's like more strict and just much easier to get in touch with. So he's my contact person. I mean, his number is right on my computer.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. That was great information to share. A lot of those things we've had in place, and some of them we will be putting in place when we return. Dr. Charity-Brown?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Dr. Tamara Charity-Brown. I'm with Associates in Pediatrics. I'm a pediatrician here in Glen Allen. Been practicing for almost 20 years now. And I'm glad to be with you all this morning and talk about my experiences with COVID and what I'm seeing with children. So my group, Associates in Pediatrics, is part of a larger group called Pediatric Partners of Virginia, and that does encompass 6 practices here in the Richmond area, as Dr. Lassiter mentioned. And so we do have practices on South Side, in the West End, and all around town. And so in addition to what I see in the West End, because we do gather group data, I'm also able to see a bit of what's going on throughout the Richmond metro area. So one of the things that I've noticed, and one of the things the nurse that was speaking really struck me, is when she said protecting one another, meaning that your school is about to become a community and everyone has to do their part within that community. And when I've seen that happen, the rates have been pretty low. So for us, with the children that are acquiring coronavirus, elementary school and lower, they are getting it from a parent pretty much. Someone, a parent, a grandparent, someone has brought the coronavirus to that child in the home. When you start talking about middle school and high school, you do get into more of the community transmissions, which we've been seeing. And that's primarily because those children in middle school and high school, their parents are allowing them to do sleepovers. Their parents are allowing them to go to parties. The parents themselves are not being the most cautious. And luckily at this other school, the parents were being honest. And so that's important when you want to protect one another. So in the elementary school age level, we're not seeing it, past child to child. The Hanover schools have been open, schools like Collegiate and St. Catherine's, all of these have been open. We service children from all of these areas. Also, starting in June 1st and June 15th, pretty much all the daycares that had closed, they all reopened. And I've not had any child over that time period who has acquired COVID from a classmate in one of these daycares or in one of these after school programs. Now, is there some child in America that that's happened to? Obviously, yes. But just in my experience in the Richmond area, it's, when the children have come in and the parents have want the children to be tested for COVID and they have it, usually the parents are already suspicious because mom has had it, dad has had it. The child spent the night at grandma and grandma tested positive 4 days ago. It's been pretty much a family member that's given it to the child. And as I mentioned before, most of the time it's spreading in the high school areas, high school level especially, just because they are really not observing the social practices that we require of them. I live on the Henrico-Hanover border, and you just go up to Sonic on a Friday night. Or go by the Wawa, up there by Adley Station, and you'll see all the teenagers and they're all out there and no one's wearing a mask. So I believe that for the elementary school level, if the parents are diligent and they're doing what you require, as at that other school, if all the parents are being honest and saying, yes, we're going out of town, yes, we're flying here, flying there, and they're willing to quarantine and be tested before they come back into the school, then I think that you can provide a protective environment for the children. As many of you probably know, the AAP does recommend in-school learning when possible, in-person learning when possible. And what I found that for some children who, were victims of like bullying and things like that, being virtual has been an absolute blessing for them. But they're the very small majority of children. I've had many more children with anxiety and depression from not being able to have the structure that school provides and not being able to have those social interactions, even if they're more limited, because you have to keep the distance. So it's just much more anxiety and depression, even in the younger children. I've had more behavior problems in the young children just because they're lacking that structure. And then, of course, you worry about the children getting behind as far as academically. Of course, the schools are going to work to update the children in the coming years. But, you do worry about the academics of it. But more importantly, you worry about the structure and the social interactions that schools do provide. And that's an important aspect. And as everyone starts to talk about, in addition to the pandemic, the mental health crisis, that's not limited to adults at all. Just to give you an example, I usually have in my practice maybe 4 to 5 children who attempt suicide over the course of a year. Now I probably have 1 to 3 per month who attempt it. So there is a true mental health crisis that is happening in our children, just as it is in our adults. And so it's really important to try to put the children in the best environment where they'll have the structure and support that they need and a bit of an outlet for them. Now, that being said, I'll tell you exactly what I tell all my parents when they ask me, well, what are you doing? Because I do have 4 children. Or, what are my plans or what are my thoughts? And at the end of the day, you have to make an individual decision for what's best for your family. So if you have a spouse who is undergoing cancer treatment, then maybe your child cannot attend in-person school. And that is a perfectly acceptable answer. This is a no judgment zone. And I tell my parents, a no judgment zone, and you have to do what's best for your family. Or if it's the case, like with me, my mother-in-law lives with me. My father is undergoing treatment for prostate cancer. So, in person would be a difficult decision for our family at that time. 2 of my girls are doing beautifully at home. One of them really needs to go back to school. And one of them might wind up repeating a grade because she really is not doing well academically. Emotionally, she's fine, but academically, she's not fine. So, when we talk to you about these things, we don't take it lightly. And we, as your physicians, as your school administrators, as your teachers, we're all making the same difficult decisions that you as parents are sitting there having to make. So, take it to heart. Then when we give you this information and speak to you, we're speaking not only professionally, but also from a personal standpoint of just recognizing that it's a hard decision. But what I can tell you is that the daycares, I've just not had to test. And I've got lots of children. Most of my parents are working parents. That's the vast majority of my practice. And the parents had to go to work or they're frontline workers. We have a lot of physician parents, a lot of nursing parents, and they had to go in. And so these children wound up back at daycare June 1st and June 15th. Those were the 2 big start dates. And I've just not had to test their children. I have to test them when they get regular daycare codes so that they can go back. But I've not had to test them because someone at the daycare showed up with COVID and now they need to be tested. That's just not been my experience. And with my children who are in the private schools and at Hanover, I've also not had to test children because someone in the class had it. Really, as the school nurse stated, if someone in the class had it, if you're considered a close contact, you quarantine for 14 days. And that's just the answer. And so everyone stays home and then you come back in 2 weeks. And I think that's been one of the positive things we've seen. It's not like in the spring where they just shut the schools down. Really, in those limited cases where there has been a case in the classroom, then they close that classroom. And the schools have really done a nice job of trying to really mitigate the number of people that can actually be exposed to it. So.
Thank you so much. Can you talk a little bit about the vaccine? I know it's out. We had the first person take it in England, I believe, 90 years old. And then the second person who got it, I don't remember his age, but I remember his name is William Shakespeare. But can you talk a little bit about when we could potentially see it available for children? Because the testing certainly has not been for children. And I know some families are looking toward that.
Yes. So thank you for reminding me of that. So yes, so the vaccine, so they are starting to roll it out. But this is the truth about the vaccine. It's going to go to the frontline workers. The frontline workers, the hospital workers, the ER workers, EMS, firefighters. They're all going to get their vaccine first. Then it's going to roll down to people like me who's still on the front line, but not nearly as the front of the line as, an ER worker. So probably, even though they started unveiling it, I'm probably looking at early spring before I get it as a first responder. And then I tell people in general, regular people, which means, you work from home, you work in an office building, but you work from home, or you're not considered a first line responder, you're probably looking at late spring, early summer, maybe, before it gets to you. And then the thing I'm letting my parents know is everyone wants to wait until the kids get the vaccine so that the kids can go back to school. You're probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years out from children getting it. The reason being is that it hasn't been studied in children. Children have not been included in any of the test cases. The AAP has lobbied for it. We even lobbied to say, okay, can you take our kids that are 15 and up, the ones, but all the studies have been strictly limited to adults 18 and up. So it's not been studied in any children. So really it's going to be rolled out to all the adults. So it's really going to be, when the parents ask me, should their child get it? I said, it's not about whether your child should get it. It's about whether you should get it, because you're the only one that's going to be available to get it. Your child is probably, I would say, a minimum of 1 year from being able to get it. And I really think it's more a minimum of them finally seeing adults get it, adults doing well with it, the efficacy still looks good, and then they started to roll it down. And I wouldn't be surprised if the initial trials only include children 12 and up, because that's how a lot of the studies do, because it's easier to get approval for 12 and up. So then they'll probably do 12 and up, and then they'll probably extend it down. So unfortunately for elementary school kids, they're not going to be in the first wave. They might not be in the second wave. It really might be the third wave that they get it. But the important part is, if we all go out and do our part and we get the vaccine and we provide them that herd immunity and we provide them that protective cocoon, then they'll be able to thrive and go to school and do the things they're supposed to do. Kind of a way to think of it is, how babies don't get, their first full series of immunizations up until about 6 months. They get some at 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months, but 6 months, really, you're at a protective level. And the rest of us have had our immunization so that we can protect those babies up until 6 months, until they can really provide it. And that's really what we'll be asking society to do for our children, is to get the vaccine so that you can protect them. Because I noticed that it's not something that they're talking about in the news. They're not talking about the fact that children aren't included in these vaccine trials, but they aren't. And I'm sure most of you don't want, to us giving it to the children without there being some form of testing in them. So yeah, that's I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is a common misconception that a lot of my parents have, is that when that vaccine rolls out, that children will be able to get it, and the children just haven't been studied in it. Now, if the FDA circumvents what they usually do and do start giving it to children, that would be something different, but it would definitely be a departure from what we usually do for children's vaccines. It would definitely be a departure. And I don't know that I would necessarily support that. I think it needs to be appropriately studied in children, just like it needs to be appropriately studied in adults, because there are differences sometimes in the amount of vaccine you give or the number of vaccines you give. For example, the HPV vaccine, if you get it before age 14, you only require 2 doses. If you get it starting after age 14, you actually require 3 doses. Why do we know that? We know that because we did the studies. And so in order to do the studies to find out what's most protective, you really got to go through that whole process. So it would really be almost irresponsible just to give the children the adult vaccine when it hasn't been studied properly in the children. So I think that for the kids, you're probably looking at a minimum of a year out. And really, when you start getting down to the babies and kindergarten and that little age group, a year and a half, 2 years.
Thank you both so very much. You provided so much great information. I know our yes, Jennifer. Oh, sorry.
Your microphone. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can I just quickly, two quick things. Because in the beginning, I was kind of like a little bit nervous and I did not say the correct thing. Our 7th graders did have to quarantine. And the ones that had siblings, according to the Virginia Department of Health, the siblings aren't known as secondary contacts. They were not, they did not have contact with the positive student. So the 7th graders had to quarantine. The siblings who were secondary contacts were able to come back to school, but we did ask that the 7th graders who were quarantined on day 7, around day 6 or 7, 6, 7, 8, to get tested. So if the 7th grader who was just in quarantine tested negative, then the siblings were able to come back. So the siblings did not have to be tested. It was the 7th grader. And we asked around day 6 through 8, and maybe the doctor, could say something more, because some of them wanted to test like that day, like that Saturday we got the phone call, and there's a possibility it would have been negative and then they could have converted. So that's what we did. So just to clarify, so the 7th graders had to quarantine when we got that one positive case. The ones that had siblings, we did ask that the 7th grader on day like 6 through 8 get tested. If the 7th grader was negative, the siblings were able to come back, but the 7th grader obviously had to wait the whole 14 days. And just one last thing, exactly what the doctor said. My children go to Henrico County Public Schools, and they've been doing virtual this whole year. They never opened up one day. And honestly, when I leave work here and go home and see them in front of their computers, granted, their teachers are awesome, but it's definitely not the same. In person is so much better. And my poor kids, they sleep in their rooms. They are in school it used to be 9 to 4. Henrico shortened it to 9 to 3. They sleep in their rooms. They do school in their rooms. They're on the computer constantly. They're at home. It's just, it's not the same. And when I look and see these kids on the playground and see them in their classroom laughing and see them at a car line, like jumping out of the car and running into school, it just, it makes me sad for my kids. But, it's they could go to a private school, but they just have been there and so long in public, but it's just such a difference. There is such a difference. Exactly what the doctor said. Emotionally, I notice it. My kids are not sleeping at night because they're not tired. I mean, they're just sitting all day long in their rooms. Then they're supposed to go to sleep. I mean, it's not the same. I could totally see where depression, anxiety, everything is kicking in. Thank you.
Thank you both again very much. I'm really happy that we'll be able to share this recording with our families. It was something that they asked in trying to make their decision in coming back, and this has just been so helpful. So thank you for everyone who joined, and thank you both for all the important information.
Thank you.